Hello, it's Mrs. Green. Today we're doing a lesson on least common denominator. So I've got a couple of graphics over here, but the definition, the key information, well, let's go back. Hopefully you've already written, I thought I was going to have to redo my lesson, but I just fixed my text. Okay, so hopefully you've already written the prior knowledge in your notes, and now is the key information. So the key information for least common denominator, key info, is first the definition of lowest or least common denominator, which I have typed here. The least common denominator, or LCD, is the least common multiple of the denominators. So they're very related. We have to find the multiple of two numbers, or three numbers, depending on how many fractions we have. So you're going to look at all your fractions, and you're going to find the least common multiple. And then we're going to use that in a couple of ways. It's used to compare. So we can compare fractions. It's very difficult to compare fractions when they don't have the same denominator. It's just very hard to know what part of the whole you have unless the denominators are the same. So we're going to use common denominators to compare, and then we're also going to use them to add and subtract, but not today. We'll just practice comparing, but in the future we'll use them to add and subtract. So that's where they're used. That's the key information for the definition. Now, if you cannot remember how to calculate a least common multiple, you can go a couple of places. So I'm going to turn the page here. Okay, so let's say you can't remember how to calculate the least common multiple. Multiple is the bigger number, so the multiples of 2 would be 4, 6, 8, etc. They're bigger numbers when you're multiplying. 3 would be 3, 6, 9. If you can't remember how to figure out those numbers, in the blue textbook you can go to page 726. In the red textbook you can go to page 115. And there's a little example so that you can refresh your memory on how to calculate multiples. You can also, I'm going to record a screencast, but I haven't done it yet, so if there's a screencast available in your list of screencasts that says LCM, or least common multiple, you can look at that. Or you can probably look at something on the internet if you can't remember how to calculate it. All right, so let's look at some examples. Also, over here to the side, I've got, this is a little graphic about how to do least common multiple. Lots of ways to remember. All right, so let's do some examples. So example 1 says to compare 1/4 and 2/5. 1/4 and 2/5. And usually when they say compare, they want you to tell them which one is bigger, 1/4 or 2/5. And you might think automatically that 2/5 is bigger because you have more of them, but a fifth is less than a fourth. So you have to be careful. So the best way to do it is to calculate the LCM. So the least common multiple of 4 and 5 is 20. And again, if you can't remember how to do that, you can review those pages. Now we're going to convert, once you figure out the lowest common multiple, the second step is to convert the denominators to the lowest common denominator. So we do that by multiplying the top and the bottom, in this case of 1/4, by 5, because we know that to get from 4 to 20 we have to multiply by 5, so that's going to give us 5/20. And then 2/5, we have to multiply whatever number we'll get from 5 to 20, which is multiplied by 4. And that's going to give us 8/20. So to conclude, we can say that 5 is less than 8, so we know that the first fraction we started out with is the smaller one, so 1/4 is less than 2/5. So that's example 1. Example 2 is similar, but it has a negative. They're both negative fractions. So we want to compare -3/8 and -5/12. So the lowest common multiple of 8 and 12 is 24. So then we're going to convert the denominators to the LCM. So we've got -3/8 times 3 over 3, because it's going to take me 3/8 to get to 24. So that's going to be negative 9 over 24, and negative 5 over 12, multiplied by 2 over 2. That's what it takes to get from 12 to 24, sorry. Negative 10 over 24. And our conclusion is negative 9 is greater than negative 10. Negative 9 is not as many negatives, so negative 10 is further down the number line to the left. So negative 9 is a bigger number. So then we can conclude that negative 9/24 is bigger, greater than negative 10/24. All right, next example is example 3, which involves a mixed number. So if you're dealing with a mixed number, you have a first step that you've got to do beforehand. So let's look at an example of what that might look like. So in this example 3, we're going to compare a mixed number 3 and 3/7 to an improper fraction of 17/5. And there's a couple things you can do. If you have the same whole number in front of your mixed number, you can simply, those will be equal, and you can compare the fractions. So I could change my improper fraction to, that's going to be 3 2/5. I could do that and then compare the 3/7 to the 2/5. But I'm going to do the more common, I think more common, when you don't have the same mixed number in the front, or whole number in the front, you would want to change both to improper fractions. So I'm going to change to improper fractions. And even though it's faster sometimes to compare mixed numbers with the whole number that's in front, as you go toward algebra, you're going to be using less and less mixed numbers that just kind of, they become less useful, and you're going to use more and more improper fractions. So we're going to start doing that as a getting ready for algebra. So I'm going to change 3 3/7 into 3 times 7 is 21, plus 3 would be 24/7. And I'm going to compare that with 17/5. So again, my lowest common denominator will be 35, because that's the lowest common multiple between 5 and 7. So I have to convert 24/7 by multiplying 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom. So 24 times 5, I did my little side work over here, gives me 120 35ths. And then if I convert my 17/5 by multiplying 7 on top, 7 on the bottom, 17 times 7, 119, there's my side work. 119 over 35. Oh, just one off. So they're very close. So the bigger, what do they ask me just to compare? So usually they want to know which one is bigger, which one is smaller. So we can state that the bigger one is the 24/7, which was a 3 3/7. That's larger than 17/5. And there's just no way I could have been able to just figure that out without using a common denominator. All right, now practice. All right, 3 practice problems for you. Number 1, find the lowest common denominator and rewrite the fractions with that lowest common denominator. So the 3 fractions, 1/2, 3/7, and 3/4. Find the common denominator, lowest, and convert them all. Second one, complete the statement with greater than. Remember, these are inequalities, less than or equal to. So you're going to fill one of those in to that space. 165 over 36. And then we have a mixed number, 4 5/12. So you have to figure out which one is bigger and fill in the right symbol. And then the third one, describe and correct the error. 3/5 is less than 4/7 because 3 is less than 4. What did they do wrong? What should they have done correctly? That's it. Oh, don't forget your wrap up. Again, some people are not getting, you're missing a lot of points if just by not doing a wrap up. It will only take you 2 minutes to do it. So I need you to do that. Okay.